All right, thanks, Dan. Yesterday on WLW, which is a historically great radio station in Cincinnati, Ohio, right? We all know WKRP, which I believe is a mythical station. WLW has been around forever. Bob Huggins did an interview, and he was in an interview with a couple of old Cincinnati radio guys, actually Xavier guys. And, of course, Huggins was a longtime head coach at the University of Cincinnati. The Cincinnati and Xavier are separated by 2 miles. So 2 miles from each other. One's a small private school. One's obviously a big public school. Here's the exchange.
Steve also tells me that you have the best portal transfers. Have you poached any Xavier guys to come to play for West Virginia?
Catholics don't do that.
No, we're above the fracas, aren't we? No problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I tell you what, any school that can throw rubber on the floor and then say they didn't do it, my God, they can get away with anything.
Rubber. Was this
I think that was at the Crosstown Shootout, wasn't it?
It was transgender night, wasn't it?
What?
Was that it?
It was a crosstown shootout. Yeah, no, what it was all those Catholic.
All right.
They were envious they didn't have one.
Oh, geez. So, look, it went to like hardcore raunch sort of deal. I'll give you my take. I want yours, Byron, and Ramos and Jay Stu. Couple different things. First thing is, I'm not excusing Bob Huggins in any way. He is 69 years old. Okay? 69 years old. He's a Hall of Fame coach. That doesn't grant you the ability to say whatever you want, but you get right up into that line. Using that word, not acceptable. But if we're all actual human beings, we go, hey, man, if you're alive in the 80s, now I was listening to Dire Straits, Money for Nothing, right? Money for Nothing has that same word in it, I think 3 different times, right? It's a slur. I'm not trying to soft sell it in any way. A little different when it's not directed at somebody. And in the context of it, it's just, for lack of a better term, chop busting between, rival schools, whatever. We've all heard it. Most of us have, I think, evolved past it, right? Words we don't use anymore. We used to in the 80s. The R word, right? How many, when you were a kid, you'd say somebody was the R word? We did. Now we don't do it. We don't say that F word anymore. Okay. By the way, somehow DB, you guys know what DB is, which is technically a curse word or whatever. It's not. That's like a common phrase in our vernacular now. So let's not act like we've suddenly. But what it is it has nothing to do with any sort of race or gender or whatever. When I was a kid, my dad had a truly tasteless jokes books. You guys ever seen those? And they had black jokes, white jokes, Polak jokes, right? Jewish jokes, anything, any race or whatever. And I used to look through these things. They were raunchy as hell. Like you couldn't tell them in public, but if you went to sleepaway camp, you had that one joke in your mind, you might tell it. My take is simple. It's not okay. It's not cool. It's not representative of West Virginia. But there is somewhere in between giving a guy a pass and firing a Hall of Fame coach when he makes a joke in jest. When he's retelling a story about them throwing rubber weenies on the floor, right? That's just my feeling. Like I understand that language is harsh, but I also know, and this is from people I know at West Virginia, a dear friend of mine is his boss, is his athletic director. I have not spoken to Ren Baker. Ren's a very close friend of mine. And I had a conversation with him 3 weeks ago. And I was like, what's he like? He's like, dude, he's awesome. He's awesome to everybody. He's great. He's in a really good place where he's just really good to people. He's been awesome to me. I value how you treat people above all else. That's me. But I do know there's lots of people like, dude, you got to fire an old guy like that and move on. Byron, what do you think?
I think that the punishment should be pretty strict, pretty heavy. I don't think that you could just miss one game. I think that I think that it should be a heavy punishment, whether that's dismissal, that's up to West Virginia. But it was just, I don't want to get into the, that's what he was thinking, because I don't know what he was thinking. I do think he was in a comfortable situation, maybe with guys that he had obviously known for years, but you still can't say that. And that's the part where I just keep coming back to. I don't know if a 10-game ban is sufficient. It's not that Huggins is going to learn anything from this. It's just I do think that you have to take some significant stand against it. I don't know if firing is that, but if you're going to suspend him, it's got to be for a decent amount of games.
Ramos?
I would say that sound or audio is uncalled for. Not only is it uncalled for from a head coach of a major program, but it's also a little bit odd that the host of the show were kind of playing along with it. Like, nobody had the guts to stand up and be like, hey, you know what? I don't know if we use those words anymore. They were kind of laughing along. I thought that was a little bit odd. I don't think you would do that, Doug, if a head coach was saying those words on your show. I think you may say like, whoa, hold on. Right?
Well, first I would hope you would dump it.
Well, yes, that
and then
is.
I would say like, hey,
and that could have been dumped, Doug. It just maybe was on the feed that maybe somebody got. Was that out over the air? Did it make it on the air? Okay, all right. Well, that's already a mistake right there. So,
but I mean, dumping it doesn't mean like he said it, and so I mean, where are you, Jay Stu?
I have so many thoughts on this, but bottom line is I'm going to be surprised if he keeps his job in this environment. I'm going to be real surprised.
I understand. What would you do?
Man, it's like one of those things that my father is around Huggins' age, a little older.
So mine would have been.
He still says things that you roll your eyes at.
Correct.
And you're like, you can't say that in public anymore, but I know your heart.
Right.
It's one of those things.
You still didn't answer my question.
What would I do if I'm Bob Huggins' boss?
Yes.
I'd probably have to fire him because I'm going to get a ton of pressure from
No, but
from
what would your vote be?
Yeah, I'd have to fire him. I have to do it.
Okay. You said you had lots of thoughts, Jay Stu, on the Bob Huggins thing. Any more you want to share?
On Bob Huggins?
Yeah, I mean, you said I have lots of thoughts, but let me just kind of give you the...
I think we all, our age, know what it's like to be around older people who say stuff that you're just not supposed to say. And
I got it, right. It's like my late grandma.
Reminds me of.
Right, my late grandma, and she probably died, I don't know, 20 years ago, but like she would always say, that colored man, and I was just like, Dad, can you say, like, you can't call, it's like, what are you gonna do, right? I mean, language has really evolved. Some of it has devolved. There are words we use. I don't know. I think we're at a very interesting time. The other part to it, though, was didn't the radio host say, was it transgender night? Like,
oh yeah,
yeah, that was
like out of nowhere.
It was like a softball for Huggins to go even more homophobic.
That was so weird. Like, again, you have to own it when you say it. But like, and I know apparently the guy who said it is some guy, Bill Cunningham. He's been doing it forever. He's like Xavier's play-by-play guy, I think. But like, that was just as weird. It wasn't offensive, but it was clearly designed to be like a little chum in the water there. I mean, and how's the third guy just not go like, hey, what are we doing here, guys? Like, are we all trying to get fired? Do we all want to get fired?